What's the story, lads? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. I hope everyone is keeping wonderfully well. Kerry have ran out 322 to 111 in the end. It's a very comfortable victory indeed for the Kingdom. They have very comfortably beaten the Banner County today, 322 to 111. Very, very comfortable indeed in the end from the Banner County. Hopefully people can hear me now. I'm not too sure if this microphone is working here. But yeah, Kerry have ran out 322 to 111. Very comfortable in the end from the Kingdom. And yeah, look, listen, in the end, you know what? This isn't even on. Can people hear me? I don't even think this microphone is on. We're having an absolute mare live on stream here. But yeah, Kerry have ran out 322 to 111. You can hear me. Thank goodness, because it's all crumbling down here. But Kerry have got the victory in the end, 322 to 111. Yeah, look, listen, in the end it was comfortable from Kerry. There was no real worries here throughout this game. In all honesty, it was very comfortable from a Kerry point of view. I mean, look, listen, Clare coming into the game, obviously they put it up to Mayo very well, in particular in the second half. They gave it a really, really good go. For me, I just don't think they took enough risks in this game, Clare. In all honesty, I really don't think they did. They should have pressed up more on the kickouts, in my opinion. They started doing it in the second half, and you could see a couple of times when Kieran Fitzgibbon was going short, there was a couple of errors there. Look, listen, I know they have to set up defensively and try and contain Kerry, because obviously Kerry are, one of the best attacking teams in the country. They're one of the best teams in the country, period. So you have to set up deep and try and nullify them and try drag them down to your own level and try and really, make it a fight, make it a dogfight, a bit like what Cork done last year. But for me, for Clare in particular on the attack, I just don't think they took enough risks. I really don't think they did, in all honesty. They just didn't take enough chances. There was a couple of opportunities there with Tubridy left one or two, fall short. Owen Cleary as well. But as GA lad says there, Kerry pulled away in the last quarter, and they certainly did. Their bench, I think it's probably not being talked about enough in my opinion, but Kerry's bench is arguably as good as Dublin's bench, if not better. When you've got players like Killian Spillane, Micheál Burns, coming off the bench. Tommy Walsh didn't even come on, as far as I'm aware. Maybe he came on for the final few moments, but that's an incredible bench. It really, really is. And obviously Sean O'Shea went off injured, then came back on. Like, they just have so many options in and around the field, Kerry, especially going forward, and even with their midfield as well. If you can bring the likes of a Jack Barry on, they have so many options. They really, really do. And I think in the second half in particular, from a Clare point of view, they just tired. They ran out of steam. They ran out of energy. This game kind of reminded me a lot of what it's like as a Dublin fan when you come up against these, other teams in Leinster. And I don't want to compare Clare to one of them teams, for example, like in Leinster, because obviously Clare were very close again up to Division 1. A lot of quality in that Clare team, can definitely improve for next season. If they were in the qualifiers, I would say that Clare could easily go on a run, maybe be one or, they wouldn't get to the last eight, in my opinion, but they'd come close. They'd be, if they got a good draw, they wouldn't be a million miles away. We've seen that actually. I think they were, wasn't it? They were one win away from the Super 8s a couple of years ago when they lost to Meath. So, but this is what it reminded me of, the way, because when Dublin are playing the likes of your Longfords, your Laois, your Wicklow's, they pull away in the final 10 to 15 minutes. They kick it on to another level. You bring on, your bench, you bring on your players coming off the bench, and they really take things to the next level. And that's exactly, for me, what happened in this game. Kerry, they were always comfortable. They managed the game brilliantly. They passed it from side to side. They done all the basics that you normally see in Gaelic football. But when you have those players coming off the bench, it makes it very, very easy. It really, really does. And obviously just run through some big moments in the game. Kerry just came out fast out of blocks. You can tell, obviously, with what happened last year in the Cork game. I think, they wanted to start quickly in this game. They wanted to start fast. Clare were a little sluggish to begin with, especially in the first half. A little bit sluggish with their passing at different stages. And Kerry were able to dictate the play early on. They were able to get a couple of early points. And obviously that goal at the end of the half as well. A brilliant pass by David Clifford. Great vision to pick it out into Sean O'Shea. And you can see that quite a lot from Kerry as well. When they get the ball in the midfield or when they win ball around the half-forward line, they're quickly looking to offload it into, whoever's playing up in and around the square, whether Sean O'Shea's up there, David Clifford's up there, etc. So it was really brilliant from Kerry in that kind of essence. And like looking through some of their scores on the day, Paddy Clifford, fantastic. I mean, probably man of the match in my opinion, just really dictating the play. He was named the 15, but he played more or less in around the half forward line, the way he kind of passed it from the side to side, set up various different attacks as well. David Clifford was fantastic as well. I had to laugh when he put that ball on the back of the net, because it's not an easy goal chance. If I had that opportunity, I'd probably miss it. But, for a player of his quality, you'd expect him to score every time. And he made a relatively easy goal by his standards look absolutely beautiful, and that's just David Clifford in explained right there and then. Sean O'Shea was fantastic as well, 1-7, and obviously kicked a couple of frees, a couple of points from place balls. But he was fantastic as well. He really, really is. And I've predicted him to get an all-star unless he's injured or something like that. I know he went off and then came back on. So we'll see what his situation is there. But I think he's going to be okay, in all honesty. I think Sean O'Shea is going to be okay. And yeah, kicking a number of fantastic points at different stages in the game. And I think the thing that impressed me most about Kerry at different points in this game as well is that you could see Clare were trying to drag Kerry down to that game. Clare in the second half started lofting long balls into Darren O'Neill. They started playing Darren O'Neill up at full forward, hitting long balls into him. And, it just wasn't working. Kerry's defence was absolutely brilliant. They done a great job in the end. The likes of Jason Foley, for example, was brilliant under a high ball. Now, I don't think Clare got the ball into Darren O'Neill quickly enough. I think they needed to be quicker with it. But when they did do so, I thought Kerry's defence done a fantastic job at dealing with it. And yeah, the likes of Mike Breen and Gavin Crowley, brilliant as well. And Gavin White, 2 points, had 1 goal chance as well. Probably should have scored. Probably should have went for the goal, but he took his point and probably the right option. David Moran, obviously coming back into the team as well. Probably a little bit, David Moore, maybe a little bit unfairly criticised, when I think back to it. Like he had a poor game against Dublin, but it's Dublin, it's one of these things. And I know he done a great job on Fenton back in 2019, but came back into the team today, was very assured, kicked a brilliant point at the start of the second half. And, they really did control the flow of the game. And when you've got players like Micheál Burns coming off the bench, getting a goal, you had Adrian Spillane, who I believe came off the bench as well. Killian Spillane hit 3 points coming off the bench. Tommy Walsh actually did come on. He came on the 57th minute. So, fair play to Kerry. They dealt with the opportunity. They dealt with what was in front of them, and they did it efficiently. They did it brilliantly, and Clare just tired as the game went on. They really, really did. Surprised. What have we going on here now? Surprised Kerry got that goal at the end, but it was a great play up to get that last goal. It was brilliant football from Kerry, and that's when they're at their absolute best. And I thought Clare, set up very well. They set up to contain Kerry, especially, because we all know Kerry's attacking threat going forward in terms of goals. But I think there's a lot of teams in the country that you can set up that way, and you can stop them from scoring goals, and then maybe you have a good chance of winning. But Kerry have players that can kick points from 40 yards, from 30 yards, and the likes of your David Cliffords, your Sean O'Shea's, Killian Spillane came off the bench, David Moran even done it at one stage as well. So they've multiple players that can kick points from those angles. And, if you're going to beat Kerry or Dublin playing that blanket defence and that kind of system, you've got to be efficient, and you've got to be, you've got to do what Donegal done in 2014. And look, listen, there's no right or wrong way to play Gaelic football. And, I think from a Clare point of view, if they go toe-to-toe with Kerry probably beat them and annihilate them anyway. So it's a tough one for Colm Collins and his men. And I don't think really you can criticise Clare too much in this game, because I still think they've had a fantastic season. Obviously, coming very, very close to promotion, putting up that big fight to Mayo. But I think we've seen today that it was like what I said last week in terms of the gap between Dublin and Kerry and everyone else. And I think we seen that again today. Keane Roberts says, can't wait to see Down beat Donegal tomorrow. I tell you what, Keane, I'd love to see it. I really, really would. I'd love to see Down get a victory there. Don't see it happening myself personally. I think Donegal will beat Down quite comfortably. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. In terms of a Clare point of view, like just running through some of their scores on the day, David Tubridy 1-1. Some suggestions in commentary that it could be his last ever game for Clare. He's obviously played for quite a number of years, I think over a decade now playing for Clare. So could very well be his last day. On Cleary, 6 points, stood up in the second half when he needed to. And, he had Dara Bohannon as well, who actually was quite impressive, hit 2 points on the day. But for Clare, like I said before, it was one of those games where they were never going to beat Kerry realistically. And I did think it would be closer. I thought maybe 7 to 8 points, maybe 9 points. But I think we've seen in the final 10 to 15 minutes that Kerry's bench is next level. And I think from their bench in total, they scored something like 1-3 with Michal Burns and Killian Spillane as well. So Keane Hastings says, what's your opinion on Mayo? By the way, Mayo for Sam. Yeah, look, listen, personally, I don't think Mayo will win the All-Ireland this year. I think even if they had Killian O'Connor, they wouldn't. And I think with his injury, I think it's an even more of a big miss. It really, really is. I think Mayo are going to struggle without him. And there's a lot of people now maybe thinking that Galway might be able to catch them in Connacht. Personally, I don't think so. I still think Mayo will have enough. But you're talking about beating a Dublin and then maybe a Kerry in an All-Ireland final. Like, beating both of those teams is going to be very, very difficult. GA lad says Kerry shouldn't have that much of a challenge against Tipperary. Yeah, they really shouldn't. It should be a comfortable victory. Look, listen, we all know. I mean, Tipperary won the Munster Championship last year. Fair play to them. They done a great job in winning that Munster Championship. But we all know realistically that Clare are probably a better team than Tipperary right now. Keane Hastings says, here up Mayo. Ha ha ha. Yeah, look, listen, if you win the All-Ireland, fair enough. If you do it, you do it. Fair play. I'll hold my hands up and say, fair play to Mayo. I'd love for Mayo to win an All-Ireland one day, but just not this year, Jack Nolte says Kerry didn't look at their best at stages yet, won by 17. Yeah, it's actually a fair point. They didn't look at their best at different points in the game, and yet they still won very, very convincingly. And that's why I go back to the start and I say it reminded me of when I watched Dublin against teams in Leinster, the way they look like they're in second gear for the majority of the game, and then yet they still win by like somewhere between 15 to 20 points. And Jerry says, were there many dual players in action? There was definitely a few on the Clare team, all right. I know there's a few Clare players who obviously play hurling and whatnot as well. So there definitely were a few dual players. But yeah, I think in the end, to wrap up, Kerry comfortably dispatching Clare. Did we learn too much maybe about Kerry in terms of where they're at, in terms of, challenging for an All-Ireland? We still know, nothing's changed in terms of them being the closest to Dublin. I think this was more about, can they do what we know they can do against the so-called weaker opposition? Because last year, obviously, when they played Cork, they flopped. Like, let's be perfectly honest. We all know they have the quality to beat Cork, but they just didn't turn up on the day. Today they did. They were efficient, they were ruthless, and they were brilliant. And GAA lad there says, I could see Limerick play Kerry in the Munster final. It's not impossible. It definitely isn't. Limerick are looking very, very good at the moment. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that game goes when it does come around indeed. And ultimately, Kerry to win the Munster Championship. I don't think there's any ways, the only way Kerry don't win this Munster Championship is if they're caught on the hop. And then after that, it's up to whoever, it could be anyone after that, but Kerry surely are getting the job done in Munster this year. They really, really are. But yeah, anyways, fair play to anyone who tuned in. I know we had a bit of a disaster at the start of the stream there. So yeah, if you want to see some comedy gold, go back and watch the start of the stream. I didn't think my microphone was working, and then it was working, so it was brilliant. But yeah, fair play to anyone who tuned in. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you later.